excited to introduce you to Bill and Patrick Pardue. They've written a book, really, called Wolf Creek, that is a game changer in for so many different reasons. And we're going to talk about why in a second. And this is a father and son duo. And in talking with the son, Patrick learned out a lot about his father by helping him with Wolf Creek. And as his dad would say, I'll steal his words, cleaning it up for him, as he said. So first of all, Bill, let's talk about your journey to Wolf Creek and tell us what the story's about.
Well, it was my first job out of college. I'd gotten a degree from University of Texas as a zoologist, and I just like the outdoors. So there was an advertisement for a wilderness camping program. You got to go canoeing, mountain climbing, the whole bit, everything that boys like to do, men like to do, everybody likes to do. So I didn't realize what the job was until I actually got there and the boys arrived, because they were really, they had been kids who'd been neglected their whole lives. Nobody ever wanted them. A lot of them didn't know who their parents were. They'd lived in foster homes their whole lives. Some of them had, they obviously had problems. They were sociopaths and psychopaths in that group. There were people who, a particular boy in particular who tortured animals. And it's just a sad story. They were at the end of the line. They had come from Chicago. City of Chicago couldn't handle them. The state of Chicago couldn't handle them. They sent them out to the boys' ranch in Texas. They couldn't handle them. So they just bought 10 acres out in the middle of nowhere, no water, no power, no anything. And they dumped the kids out there with us. And that was it.
Wow. And you say, and that was it. And Patrick, you went through the manuscript, and when you were reading about what your dad did and what happened with these kids, what really jumped out at you? Your dad did a great job of describing some of the things these kids had been through and how lost they were. And now here they are in the middle of nowhere. What did you get from that in reading that and looking at that?
One thing was definitely how hard it would have been to survive that, and how strong you'd have to be to make it out of that as a counselor and, as a teenager as well, as one of the kids in the camp. Yes. And just, again, like my dad said, how much suffering these kids had been through and where they'd come from. And also my dad, to see another side of him again, really helping these kids. And acting like a father figure to them. That was very good for me to see that as well.
So for you, Bill, once you get there and you're in the middle of nowhere, as you described it, what did you see happen to these kids? What was the transformation like?
Well, of course, they were a wild group when they got off the bus. I had to have a fight with both the leader and the enforcer within the first hour. Just to be able to stay there. I mean, that was the real interview, was with those boys coming at you. But what they learned was, number one, they could trust. There were some people they could trust, and those were the counselors, including me. There were some people who cared about them and who loved them, and some of them had never been loved by anyone. They just didn't know what it looked like. They knew what a punch in the face looked like, or kick in the head, or whatever they'd been getting, but they did not know what love looked like. So it took a while to prove myself to them, but eventually they said, okay, this guy might be all right. We'll let him stay around for a while. Because they did set some counselors on fire, and they did other things, and they sent them home. A lot of counselors didn't last 2 weeks. So, it was definitely survival of the fittest.
Yeah. What do you hope, Bill, that people take away from reading Wolf Creek? And we're speaking to Bill and Patrick Pardue. What do you hope they take away?
Well, I think I told you a short story before about my older brother calling me. He's like 74, never called me really. We weren't that close. He calls me one night and he's sobbing on the phone. I'm thinking, what could have happened? What happened? And he could barely get it out. But he said, I just finished reading your book. So that's what I want people to get. And I'm a passionate person. So when I write with that passion. I try to dump it all into the book so people can feel it. They can feel what it's like to be out in the woods surrounded by 10 boys who are terrors, right? They're gang members, they're this, they're that. How do you feel in that situation? That's what I try to do in all my books, is to give people a sense of, whoa, that's scary.
They would be scary. Patrick, how proud are you of your dad and the fact that you got to be involved in the project?
Very proud, both of the fact that he was involved in this from the beginning. He was a counselor, and then from the fact that he was able to write it down all those years later and make a book out of it. And that he let me, come back and edit it and fix it up.
Yeah. So we also have another book we want to mention. And of course, you can get Wolf Creek on Amazon, A Mystic's Pictorial Guide to Spiritual Evolution. Who doesn't want some of that? Patrick and I are both sitting here. This is radio, and we're saying, yeah, bring it on. So Bill, you're so passionate. Give it to all of us. Tell us what the book's about there. I think it's pretty obvious, and I read it, so I know, but tell everybody else listening.
Well, the encapsulated version is this, and I think I told you this before. If you take all the holy men that have ever existed, all the gurus, all the Bibles, all the Qurans, all the Bhagavad Gitas, and you put them in a big blender and you blend them up, and then you pour that through a cloth to screen out everything that isn't pure spirit, that isn't purely divine. So all the rituals go out and all the money goes out and all the chalices go out and all that goes out. And what you have left is this: how do you get into contact with the higher consciousness, whether you just call it pure consciousness, cosmic consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, life force? There is that force out there that an individual can get into contact with that has traditionally been called God, right? And that's what the book's about. And the way I did it was because I read so many of those books, and they just put you to sleep. Oh my God. And then they're in 5 different languages. And what does this mean? So this is the essence, I think, of all religion. It's what people need to do to raise their spiritual consciousness. And which is, the first one is, and there's a corresponding picture, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So I had 70 pages. So I just tried to simplify it for people so that they could see, they could go through that. So it's really a living puzzle. If you can go through each one of those pictures and get the message that is there, and of course, for everybody, it's going to be a different message, then your level of consciousness is going to just begin to open up. And when I say raise it, you're just opening up, right? The old thing, open heart, open mind. Unless you have an open mind, you can't have an open heart. So that's what it's about.
Did you have a favorite picture from the book?
I do. There's a picture of a woman, young woman, obviously, in nature with a huge cataract of water coming down in front of her, and she's just looking at it. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it said that no matter what you think, no matter what you own, you cannot freeze life. Life is a moving, living thing like that, And if you really want to experience life, you have to jump in. So she's looking at this life passing by her, just changing every minute. And if you really want to experience life, you have to let go. You can't keep people out. You have to let it in. You have to let go. You have to feel the bad things, feel the good things, because it's always a whole, right? You can't have a bad thing without a good thing. You can't have a good thing without a bad thing. And it's all there just for us to experience and to take in. And we have to trust the process. We have to trust the cosmos to be smarter than we are, so that, because it told me, I did this over 2.5 years, and every one of those things was an inspiration to me. I would read it later and say, I'm not smart enough to write what I wrote. You hear these stories about that, but it actually happens. So
I love it. And you can get this book on Amazon too. Patrick, what do you think of that? I think that I can, again, we're speaking where we can see each other for everybody that's listening to us. And both of us, you and I, are like those dogs that they put in the window. We're shaking our heads fast and furious. Yes, give us more of that. but it's true. And it is a beautiful book, but there is something about matching the pictures, the words. And I love the description your dad said of throwing it all in the blender. And what is it really that's coming out here? What do you think?
Well, I've had spiritual experiences of my own, so I can connect to a lot of what he said in the book as well. And I really definitely connect to what he just said about life and being able to experiencing it. You have to jump in. You can't hold back. If you want to experience everything, the good and the bad, you have to just, take a breath and just jump right in. And that's how you have spiritual experiences that are worth anything, or romantic experiences or anything. You can't be afraid to just jump in and just live how you want to.
Yeah. I have a feeling that, Patrick, you've jumped in a lot because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I can tell just in our conversation that that's probably happened here. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
What a delight to have you both on the show. And again, you can pick up both of these books on Amazon. Bill and Patrick Pardue, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.